If you're not able to stay for the whole class, the class will be posted and you'll be able to see it on your platform after the fact. And as always, if you do run into any difficulties tech-wise or any questions that you may have, whatever platform you're on, whether it's GoToWebinar, Facebook, or YouTube, just write a question in the chat area. We do have people behind the scenes that are manning those questions, and they'll be able to help you. All right, well, without further ado, I think we'll go ahead and bring Guy on, and let's get started here.
Lo and behold.
Terry. Hello, Guy.
Hi, Terry.
All right, so would you like me, Guy, to read the topic and the key lesson for today?
Yes, please.
All right, here we go. The title for this morning's class is Enter the Invisible Flow of Life and Free Yourself from the Fear of Unwanted Moments. And the key lesson reads as follows. There are 1,000 different ways to wrap a gift, but there's only one way to receive the true present moment, and that is to be open to what it has come to give you. All right, Guy, take it away.
Here's Guy. Hello and welcome, everyone. Again, we are having our second live broadcast from our mini headquarters in southern Florida. I almost said Oregon. And there are a small group of students here, so I will be addressing the people in the room even as I address you who are joining us from whatever part of the world, whatever day or time it may be. I'm glad, as always, to have this space to be able to share with you. I think I want to start by encouraging you to not just put aside anything that might be distracting you, but to realize that what we're going to look at today is at the heart of everything that we ever talk about. And much to the purpose of the talk title and the key lesson, to realize that there is something that is almost perpetually in our way, meaning that we find in it a source of pain that we don't know what to do with, and that we spend our lives trying to figure out how to achieve a peace that we just can't seem to reach, not permanently anyway. So I want to set the stage for our material by asking you to see that so much of the pain we have in life moment to moment is not because of what life presents to us, but rather because in those moments there's something in us that has gone before us to make everything crooked, and that is forever trying to prove itself to be something, so that the pain isn't in the moment's presentation, but in our ambition to prove to ourselves and everyone else around us that we are, not just as we've imagined ourselves, but that life confirms it and everyone else needs to do so. And I want to look at this so deeply with you so that if you can glean just a tiny bit of what it is that we're going to look at, you'll be able to meet these moments in a way that you've not been able to meet them before, because when all is said and done, and it will require a little reaching. I'm going to look at something very macrocosmically and microcosmically. We're going to put these worlds together and then realize that instead of this process of trying to prove myself all the time to be what I've imagined or to make you see as I want you to, that real life is a process of discovery. Even that word has lost its glow, because for us, discovery always has to do with something that we go to and take from in order to enlarge our sense of self. Real discovery is not the enlarging of oneself. It is the discovery that oneself is something that is immeasurable. Which means that when a man or a woman begins to understand the purpose of the moment that they are given, and every moment is given, if you have any doubt about that, just wait till later in your life. Then life becomes a completely different journey. And the importance of this idea that we're going to examine is that the difference in the quality of the journey depends upon the quality of the mind involved in it. So with that premise in place, I want to just build on it a little bit to say that for most of us, and I'm going to ask the people in the room, agree or not agree, our consciousness is pretty much predicated on a constant state of measuring and comparing whatever it is that's going on outside of us to what it is that we want to happen within us. So that we're, to make it simple, we live with a kind of perpetual inner scoreboard. It's a bloody nightmare, you know. 2 men on, you know, and you're about to lose the inning in the game. So that life looks to us all the time where without knowing it, something is basically saying, you know, how am I doing? You may not know that when you're talking to people, something in you is going, how am I doing? But that's exactly what's going on. Am I succeeding in convincing you that I am the way that I want you to see me? Because that's what we do. I want you to see me as this benevolent, compassionate, very wise person, which is a stretch sometimes, isn't it, when you're negative? And so you're like always got a toe in the water of the moment. You know, sorting out, is it the right temperature? And it's horrible, because that mind and the whole purpose of this opening is to try to get you to see that our mindset is set on trying to prove ourselves a success, and at the same time trying to avoid the feeling of failing, of losing. So that winning and losing are this immense context behind every moment of our life, because without knowing it, no one wants to come out of the moment thinking that they lost. I mean, even on the road, I was yesterday, some guy in this Ford 83,965 volumes of something came up behind me. I was doing the speed limit, but it wasn't enough. He's right up there. And you know what goes on. My mind suggests, tap your brakes, show this guy. My mind says, why doesn't that idiot go around me? The mind is filled with conversation. But all of it is so that I come out of that moment having victory over this idiot that's making me a victim. So that I win, he loses. And that's what we want. We want people to know they've lost. That's why we use these passive-aggressive comments, because it's a way we get to winning what we never win, which is peace. And I want to talk about the nature of peace in a completely different way. And I'm telling you right at the start, I understand, I'm not talking about a model. I threw that word out when I began to sort through this material. Models are the source of misery. We model ourselves after our parents or their parents, or in some instances, we model ourselves after someone we never want to be like. I did that with my older brother. When I was growing up, I said, no matter what, I'm not going to be like him, because he was big and, you know, I just wasn't going to be that way. So the model is based on resistance, essentially. It feels like affirmation, but it's really a form of denial. If I don't get into the talk, I'm going to never get to it. We inherit this way of seeing life. I can remember so well as a young man certain instances with my father, who in the world was a very successful person, bouncing off the walls because it seemed like not only was I going to be a pin type of my father, which was a very successful professional person, but I was going to exceed him because I was still young and he was getting old, and I could do what he couldn't because I could see things he would never understand. You understand how deep the ego runs. So from generation to generation, and my father tried to be more than his father. And all the way down, because that's what they're told. I want you to have more, be more than I am. But what I am is, according to me, what I've achieved and succeeded at being or avoided losing. So if you can just achieve and succeed more than I've succeeded, then you will have succeeded in life. And we meet everything through that mindset, which is not my mind or my father's mind or the mind of all the parents through time. It belongs to a level of consciousness that has failed to understand the purpose of life, and so creates for itself a model of success that it can measure itself to, avoid failing, and achieve at all costs what it believes will make it of some consequence. I better slow down a little bit. Where the stress that we feel, even though we don't see it, which is the point of the talks that we have so we can get these little peepers open a little wider, is I can't afford to lose here. I got to pull it off. If I don't achieve it the way I've imagined it, not only am I a loser in my own mind, but I've already made ways to make sure that you see that I'm doing what I'm doing and that you see me as I need to be seen. And if I can't get you to see me the way I want you to see me, I've lost. And then, as a rule, then I will try to convince you or otherwise explain why it is that I didn't become what it was that I said I would. And it's hell. Is it hell, yes or no? Yes. It is. I don't want to be, I'm a loser, and I'm not what I appear to be. Yeah, I am. I live from a mindset that's constantly fearing some sense of loss. What do you think moves you in the morning? Love doesn't fear loss. What fears loss is something that has decided what it means to win. And we need to look at this so deeply that we begin at least to suspect, which is the purpose of the talk, that when we feel this fear, this anxiety, this sudden sense of if I don't pull it off, something's going to be lost, it is not the proof, as we think it is, that we're looking at life as it is. It's the proof that we're looking through life through a false lens. A set of eyes that measures life instead of meeting it. A set of eyes that measures life instead of meeting it. When you see something that's beautiful, you're not measuring the beauty unless you're a genuine psychopath that then decides I have to emulate where I live to look exactly like this moment does. And even then you don't achieve it because you're forever trying to keep in place something that you can't. And then it costs you your whole life to maintain it. So this pain that we feel, it's because of a consciousness, because of an unconsciousness of a nature that doesn't know itself other than through some form of comparison, a topic I'm going to go into very deeply, perhaps next weekend. Now, I have a story, and I love this little story. I hope that you won't think, what in the name of God is Guy talking about when you hear it? But I think if you listen with your heart, you will be able to understand why I'm telling this story, and then we'll transition from it into the explanation of the material. So here's a small coastal town. I like to set my stories in coastal towns. And there's a fisherman, a humble fisherman, has a small family. He makes his living every day going out to sea and catching just enough to sell and to eat and support his family. He has a very simple life. And one day our humble, simple fisherman who owns one rowboat is at his friend's pub, and I kind of long for this myself. You ever seen like in an Irish or Scottish pub? What a great thing. They sit there, they throw down a pint. There's some people playing some marvelous music on fiddles. Everybody's doing the whirling or whatever it is. They're dancing, and it's simple. Nobody's pretending to be anything. Nobody's trying to prove anything in a pub like that. You go to the places that most human beings go, it's a pain factory because everybody's trying to prove that they are the way they're sitting, the way they're dressed, and that they actually possess what they're pretending to possess. I had to get that out. So here he is. Night's over, and he's starting to wander back to his shanty there on the coast. And as he walks by the town, lo and behold, down an alleyway, he notices something kind of moving in the dark. And it catches his eye, and it thinks to himself, that looks like a person, but they're prone on the ground, rolling around. Can't be a person. So he starts to walk down the aisle. He starts to walk down the alley, and as he gets closer, he's stunned. And the reason he's stunned is because what he sees there lying in the mud in the alley is the wealthy owner of the town's cannery. Now, if you don't know what a cannery is, it's the place that buys all the fish of the local people to put into cans to sell to other countries. And this is how this wealthy man makes his fortune. He sells all of his goods around the world, and in particular to one country that loves sardines. I had to pick a name. I could have said anchovies, but it would have made me just as unhappy. And he's stunned because that the wealthy owner of this cannery is laying in the ground. He's got a bottle in his hand. He's clearly intoxicated, must have fallen over in the alley, might have even been beaten. And then he thinks to himself, what in the world? And then he remembers earlier in the day, prior to setting out, he heard that a war had broke out in a distant country. And that distant country is, in fact, what he knows to be the main one that the cannery negotiates with and sells all their goods to. And they'd closed the shipping lanes, which means the owner of the cannery was basically out of luck. Something happened, the conditions changed his fortune overnight. I could tell you so many stories, my personal stories, how complete fortunes changed overnight. Thank God for that. But not to the owner of the cannery, who's laying there on the ground, drunk. So the fisherman is a good man. We talked about the Good Samaritan. He kneels, offers a hand to the owner of the cannery. And the wealthy man simply grunts and rejects his hand and turns over, by the way, and rolls into the mud more. But the fisherman decides to reach further anyway, and the rich man snarls at him and says, "Get your stinking hands off of me." Now, you and I both know what our first reaction would be. I'm trying to help you, dude. Get your stinking hands off me. Because in the usual mindset, well, he must think I'm a lowly person. I'm a fisherman. He owns the cannery that I barely sell my fish to. But the fisherman is a different kind of man, at least in this moment. And even at the end of this story, you'll see. So the fisherman hesitates for a split second, thinks to himself, he'll regroup inwardly. He's using the moment as opposed to being used by it. And he extends his hand once again. He reaches over and actually touches the wealthy man. And the wealthy man snarls at him. "I don't need help from a loser like you," says the wealthy man. Now you can see that would be possible, can't you? The fisherman stands there for a moment and realizes what you must one day realize is true, that you can't cast pearls before swine. That when you try to save a drowning person, if they don't want to be saved, they will pull you down with them. He did everything that was in his power and finally refused to do what was not, which is to save someone who was so busy, filled with self-pity, that he has to be left to himself to sort it out. So the fisherman turns around, starts walking away, and the wealthy man raises his head. And the last thing that the fisherman hears as he's turning the corner of the alley, and the only help this wealthy person had, the last thing he hears is the wealthy man shouting, "You'll never be a winner like me." Now, I juxtaposed something in this story to create an intended contrast between someone who is in and of himself at peace and someone whose peace depends upon constantly proving that he is what he has made himself to be in this world. So that anything that challenges that wealthy man, as you can see in the story, seems to undo instantaneously everything that he's attained. What does it profit a man to have gained the whole world and have lost his soul? And we spend our entire lives, you may not even think it's true, but I tell you it is, measuring and comparing ourselves to what the moment seems to ask of it, what it might take from us if we don't respond properly, and how at all costs to ensure that we remain proving ourselves to ourselves and all of the people around us. That is human life on this planet, which is why there's war, by the way, because it can't be proven. You will never prove yourself to be as you imagine yourself, because the very state of an imagined self lives in constant conflict with the conditions that challenge that state, as they always do. Everybody following me? Yeah. So here's the big first transition. Nice relaxed breath. We only are at peace, so to speak. We only have this love of life when we have it, when all of the moving parts in life line up with our ideas and images of ourselves. If everything's going the way it's supposed to go, I'm like chill. I'm so cool. I'm happy. I'm content. I'm giving because nothing's wrong. But in a heartbeat, and maybe you've never noticed the speed with which this takes place, I can be in a certain state, And I can look at you, and maybe you don't acknowledge all that I'm trying to give you or to be to you. And the minute that you feel like that, man, up comes what inside of me? Suddenly I feel threatened. Now try to see the switch. I'm on top because everything is aligned with the conditions I imagine are required for me to have the sense of myself that I do. I'm on top of it. Boom. I'm not on top of it. It's on top of me. And I'm struggling to get out of a weight, out of a problem, out of a situation that didn't even exist prior to a shift in a condition that I had no control over when it happened. And that's another important point. The conditions that change this consciousness, the consciousness that doesn't want the conditions, it has no control over them. The truth is, a consciousness that imagines a required condition in order to be content is the victim of the condition it imagines, not the one who's achieved superiority to it. Am I going too fast? So as long as life lines up with our ideas, our images, beautiful. But the minute that anything challenges it, we're filled with resistance. And then instead of the love of life, we have what? We despise it. So one minute we love life, the next minute we despise it, and never see the shift in the consciousness because I'm fully identified with being the one who is winning, or I'm fully identified with the one who is losing or who's about to fail. And later I will go into this, not in this talk. You cannot serve two masters. You will love one and despise the other. That whole passage, the whole section in Matthew, if you ever want to really read something significant, follows the Beatitudes in 5. And is this marvelous explanation of where it is that because, I said I wasn't going to go through this, but I just touch on it. The light is the body, the light is the eye of the body. Light is the eye of the body. Now you think to yourself, no, the eye is the place the light comes into the body. But that's not what Christ said. He said, no, light is the eye of the body. What does that mean? First, the word light simply means illumination, that which comes off of a lamp. That illumination is the eye of the body, and the eye means the understanding of the body. So according to the degree to which a person is illuminated from the inside out, to that degree, their body is filled with light. And then that passage goes on. But I needed to put that in because we see life the way we do through a set of eyes that believes it knows what light is. But Christ goes on and say, but if those eyes, if that light is full of darkness, how great is that darkness? How great is that ignorance that believes it can measure life and derive from that comparison some sense of consolation, some sense of being someone special, or suffering because I've lost everything that made me special. Still tracking? So here we are, and we'd have no idea that within us exists not just a set of images. You know, you do a certain thing for a long time, whatever it may be. You know, I've been talking a really, 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 really long time. Some of you have been doing what you do a really, really long time. And the more you do something for a really, really long time, you're sure that you really, really understand it better than anybody else. And if anybody doesn't see that you understand it better than they do, do I have to explain what goes on? They're a threat. They might have some valuable information for you, but no, you are messing with my territory. What is my territory? The territory is the country that exists between the image of myself and the self that creates it. And that's an immense space in one respect in this consciousness, because anything that touches, even remotely touches that hallowed ground of this special self is seen as a threat and will always be dealt with either by summarily dismissing them or by attacking them seemingly through explanation, or it might be just out and out defense. You don't understand. Clear? So these images that we have cannot be separated from the identity that they are a part of. This is a big idea. Image and identity are a singularity. There's no self, in quotes, that has an image. There is only an image that has a corresponding identity connected to it. What would the image be without someone or something identified with it? Why do I have images of myself? Other than they come with a corresponding sense of self that, by the way, created the image so that it could know itself as something through that image. The image of being a successful person requires what? All of the trappings of a successful life. So the more trappings I have of a successful life that I can look at, the more successful I feel, until there's a war in a distant country and I can't ship my goods off to where I want to ship them off. Now I'm in an alley drinking, metaphorically speaking, because I'm a miserable person. A second ago I had everything. Now I got nothing. Doesn't that happen? I can't tell you how many times that happened to me. I really can't. It's unbelievable. Anyway. So what we call losing is what? What we call losing. I'm not going to, how many of you know that you have to have the last word? I mean, simply put, I have to have the last word. You can't have it. I remember days many, many, many years ago, still in my teens, I was in love, and we were at odds because I was attracted to some spiritual work and she wasn't. And we began to have these arguments. And that poor woman, I could not stop arguing until she collapsed. Do you know that? Do you know that that's like? We're not done talking. Now you don't say that. You say you don't understand. Let me explain again. And you splain a person into the ground. Why? Because I can't lose. Because if I don't come out intact, then something terrible has happened to me. So I have to exit every moment feeling as though the me that went into it is still in its place on top of things. Do you see this with yourself? And when we are like that, why are we like that? Because something in us feels like it's being torn apart. The system, the structure, and this really, you'll see it one day, the structure of this unconscious nature that is threatened by anything that doesn't confirm it starts to feel itself losing its grip. It actually starts to feel as if it's losing its life, which is why there's so much fear and anxiety behind those moments, because it's doing everything it can to put Humpty Dumpty back together again. So we live from a lower nature that is what? First, that is already conditioned by a set of definitions. Already conditioned by a set of definitions. The definitions may vary by culture, environment, social structure, but the consciousness that can be conditioned is the exact same consciousness. And that nature defines itself how? We've been talking about it, what we call win and lose, right? Isn't that how it defines itself? Please, am I going too fast? I don't want to lose you. So we can just change that a little bit. It defines itself by what it wants and what it doesn't want. That's how it's defined. But it can't see that it's confined by that same nature. Because if what I want I have to have, then I'm serving that desire. I have no idea what I'm doing to anybody else through it. Or if I don't want this, then I'm serving what I don't want because I'm going to try to change and control what I blame for the pain I'm in that moment. So the crux of this divided mind is that it lives in a constant state of comparison that it doesn't know it lives in, that meets every moment it sees and perceives through, I want this, I don't want that. I don't want this, I do want that, or some blend of that, so that it is never free. It is never free. You cannot be free when you want and don't want at the same time. You will never be free by a want, and you will never be free by a don't want. Because the consciousness that creates that comparison is in fact the prisoner, the prison, the prisoner, and the guard. Do you see it? And if you remember, yesterday inside, I talked about drama, daily drama. Isn't that what the drama is? Can you connect it? The drama is, I have a problem with you. And my problem with you is that you want what I don't. Or I don't want what you are. Or they want something that's set against what I think is the best thing. So my mind, I live in a war. You want to know why the world is the way it is? I'm actually explaining it to you. The world is the way it is because of the consciousness that manifests, without it knowing it's doing it, enemies and friends, peace and war. And it's forever pursuing peace that creates war, and ever trying to escape war by manufacturing a peace that is the seed of the next war that will follow. And it's been this way since time began. I'm just going to pause for a second. I realize I'm pouring a lot out. Have a drink. And the beauty of this drama is you're all by yourself. Isn't it true? Please. I'm in the days of your life. That terrible soap thing. Why do they call it is that because people were always in a bubble bath while they were watching it? Why were they called soap operas? Never mind, that's so old. I'm so old, forget I asked. All right, let's make a transition. You can see now, can you not, what we're getting at? There's a constant drama because there's constant comparison. The comparison wants to win and not lose, or not lose and win. Constant drama, yes? Because my identity is a derivative of that relationship. All right, big shift. So you can see, please, that this mind has created in and of itself, deeply conditioned so, a host of fixed images, a host of ideas and beliefs. That's what it has created. It didn't create it itself. It was immersed in a constant kind of reconfiguration of parents and parents before them, so that we come out believing that our ideas are unique to us. Aren't your ideas unique to you? Yes. My definition of success is very unique. And if you doubt it, just challenge my definition of success. And then I fear losing that definition. So, the Hermetic teachings, as above, so below, as within, so without. We've talked about that a number of times, but I want to look at this whole broader life through a completely different lens, the new eyes that Christ talked about, because the new eyes open us up to the advent in our existing possibility, a completely different level of consciousness that can begin to see what we're talking about without having to go into thought about it. As above, so below. Try to follow this next idea. I'll slow down. What is my inner struggle on a daily basis? And we can agree it's daily, yes? What is my inner struggle other than what I see as a challenging condition that actually my struggle mirrors the fact that creation never stops changing? My struggle mirrors the fact that creation never stops changing. Because what is my struggle with? Change. But my struggle isn't actually with change itself. You can't struggle with change. It'd be like yelling at a breeze. Go away. Telling a sunbeam, stop it. You can't struggle with change. You struggle with what is formed in you when something resists a moment that mind says that's what it means, and then it struggles with its own meaning. As I talked about yesterday, that's the drama. So here is, and this is what I want to get into. Everywhere that we look, with the eyes of the mind instead of the eyes of a heart that has intelligence, we see a world that's static. We see and experience a world where everywhere we go goes before us this conditioned nature that is looking for something that will confirm what it requires to ensure its identity goes on unencumbered. So this mind is looking at and for something it can use to compare what it came into that moment with, to prove that it is or that it isn't as it's imagined itself. But you have to look and see for yourself. Let's bring up the video. Now, you're going to see appear on your screen here for a moment a short video of something that we made, where you will see this yin and yang as it circulates. Eric's going to start it so you can see it. And what you see here is that we'll call the red the active, we'll call the blue the passive. You can see that the red moves and takes the place of the blue, and the blue moves into the place of the red. So that active moves into a passive state, and what is passive moves into an active state, and they are always in a constant flux. There is never not that change taking place. And that's, by the way, in the yin and yang, what those colors in the middle of each one, the little pink dot in the little active dot in the passive blue, the little passive dot, the little active dot in the passive blue, and the little red dot in the, never mind. You get the idea. You can take that away now. I wanted to put that up so that we could understand that there's no moment in which that isn't the whole of life. I went online and actually did some research on this. Our mind does what? Our mind has a static idea of what a moment is based on what the mind is telling us the moment means. So nothing in that mind is moving. It seems like there's movement because there's a sensation of self produced through resistance. This mind is inflexible. The proof of its inflexibility is how it takes this position instantaneously. Have you ever found yourself taking an instantaneous position and you have no idea? It's like somebody put a steel rod down my back. My jaw gets tense. Why? Because something in the changing moment is actually acting on something that cannot afford to see itself as it is. So it sits and it proves that it knows what is true by resisting the revelation by the way that it's false. It actually resists change because this nature can't afford change, because if everything's changing, who am I and where am I going to find myself in a world that is ceaselessly changing? I want you to look at this with me. This is what I did the research on. I wanted to know. I wanted to prove to myself that what I was going to teach, even though I know it's true, I still wanted to have this confirmed. Every atom, or I'll say this to you, there is no such thing as stillness anywhere. An atom is never still. An atom has protons, neutrons, and electrons. The protons, neutrons, and electrons, when you think of an atom, I don't know about you, I go back to school and I kind of see like a solar system, where the sun is the neutron and the proton and the electrons are going around it, and I see a little world. And that's a nice idea in level and scale. But the fact of the matter is that the electrons, the neutrons, every one of these tiny humans, these tiny units that we imagine as stable are vortices. They're vortices. They're all moving. They're constantly states of energy, waves appearing and disappearing in a field of motion. So you have nothing but this constant motion taking place, and we see no motion at all. When you look out and someone has said something, or you're thinking about your day, what do you look at? I'm looking at what my mind is projecting on the screen of itself as possibilities for winning or losing. That's what I'm looking at. So my mind is bifurcated without knowing it into something that I want and something that I don't want at the same time. And they're there together. That's what we don't get. That this idea of winning and losing are not separate. They appear as one, brought to us by that unconscious nature. Again, which is why you can't serve two masters. You love one and despise the other. The two masters is this unconscious nature that never stops imagining and desiring what it does in order to prove or otherwise escape what seems to disprove its existence. So I just want somehow or other, because like I said, we're going to look at something that will be a stretch for most of us. I don't see things changing unless it's something that I need to change. That's what I think change is what I have to do. Or change is what happened that still causes me to have to make changes because I don't like what changed. So changing is me being proactive, securing in my mind what will make me at peace, or being proactive by running from what has disturbed my peace and trying to change the condition I blame the conflict on. I'm trying to be simple. It's extraordinary. This is one reason it's so beautiful to live in nature as best one can. If you ever are able to be quiet in nature, you can see that there is no moment in which, and I hate this word even though it's true, where all of these energies that are manifesting themselves in different levels of life, different creations, everything from the light that gives life to a form to the form that takes in that life and is changed by it, all of that moving at once. And who sees it? I don't see it because to see it, I would have to be part of what was changing, instead of resisting change because it doesn't support what I believe it means to win. I don't see changes because I'm not a part of it. For me, change is what I have to do to prove or disprove a moment as friend or ally, enemy. Are you able to, that's subtle, but can you see it? So it brings us to a big question. If everything's changing, now I know we don't see that yet. I'm going to try to deliver us as best I can into this idea. If everything is changing, well, the name of God is identification. I mean, that's what we're talking about. I am identified with this idea, this belief, this opinion. I'm identified with this outcome. And if I'm identified with this outcome, then by God, anything that challenges that outcome, I've become identified with that. Remember we talked about our attention belongs to object, and that's all that goes on. This identity, that identity, this identity, that identity. Each moment believing that by shifting my identification, it'll be the same as escaping the thing that I don't want to be identified with. That just goes on and on and on. Endlessly it goes on. What is this? What you will ask yourself this one day, with God as my witness, you will, if you finish the race. One day you'll be sitting there and go, what in the name of God am I about to do to myself? I feel this anxiety. What in the name of God is this anxiety about? Oh, it's because I have to do this, get that, go there, fix this, finish that. I have to do that. Why? You never ask that, because the pain pushes you through any question. And the reason is I have to do that is because my whole life depends upon ensuring that whatever it is that I can manifest in the world will match the me that's supposed to be that man. So you are, without knowing it, constantly being crucified in a manner of speaking by time, by a time nature, by something that doesn't know itself in the moment of change because it can't. Because in order to be in the change, participate in it, there's no one there measuring it. There's no one there comparing the moment to anything. Can you reach that for a split second? What would be what would be that moment where for a split second I see the problem isn't in the condition. The problem is that there's something in me measuring the condition according to something I came into this moment wanting, and that I've been measuring condition after condition. Who in the name of God is measuring this condition and producing this misery that promises relief but only delivers me into another prison? It's just, it's why I'm passionate about this. Love creates a passion that is unparalleled, because you begin to understand that you are not here to discover, you are not here to prove yourself. You're here to participate in an endless revelation in which could be said one discovers that they are a part of God's life and not apart from it. Because that's all I'm describing here is God's life in passing time. The ceaseless interaction of active and passive forces being reconciled and giving birth through the Holy Spirit into a new form. And if that's really what change is, then why in God's name am I not participating in what God wants me to have and be in this world? This is what we're looking at. And how do we get to that point? So, we're looking at a kind of a new model. Again, I don't particularly care for that word, but that's what we're looking at. What's the old model? My wife said, yeah. No, the old model is a consciousness that doesn't know that it's forever modeling life after itself. That's the old model. That everywhere it goes from the time it was born, meaning it came into this body and realized somehow or other, sensed that it was apart from life, as this fallen nature feels itself, it began to do what? It began to look for a way to feel secure and safe. Too many things frightening it, too many unknown things, too many things that aren't resolved. And how I know? Because I'm so undisturbed. And so that mind, without understanding the nature of this disturbance, which is what is always taking place, but can you see that if everything's constantly disturbed, nothing is? Is that too much of a reach? If everything's constantly being changed, is anything changing? Or is the whole thing just change? Whole thing's just change. But I don't live like that. I live by trying to change. I want to change where I live. I want to change what I have. I want to change where I go. I want to change the people around me, unless they're doing what I need in order to feel like I've already changed them or my life has changed and now I'm happy again. You can never, there is a happiness that your heart of heart long for that can never be found in a world that this mind has made in its own image. But that in the strange and probably the greatest paradox of all time, it's in the recognition that this mind as it is constantly defines the moment so that it can be free of what it doesn't want to find in it. And as it defines the moment according to its conditioning, it is confined to the content of its own conditioning. And that conditioning is this forever searching for a way to win or avoid loss. That's the nature of this mind. So what are we looking at? I've tried as best I can to describe to you, and hopefully I'll let you feel to some extent, the possibility of a new order of mind. Metanoia, as Christ would have called it, a new mind. Not a mind thought about and then experience what we imagine a new mind would be, but literally a new mind. A new mind is present to everything the old mind does. The old mind knows nothing about the new mind. And this new mind, it is what it is because it participates in a body of awareness that everything enters into, that everything is changed within, but that awareness itself never changes. The only thing that's changing is all the content that enters into it. And even that's not changing because it's simply becoming itself anew in another form, in another time, in another place. It is reborn. So that a new mind understands it is never not being reborn. Because it's participating in change instead of trying to control it. You will see if you work with these ideas at all, if you take them to heart, the most difficult thing in the world will be, because you'll feel it, you can see it, even if it's just one moment. Why do I love nature? Why do I look at the bay, I go into the mountains, what is it about a river or a stream or a sudden downpour? Like, what is it about that? It's because you as made in the image of God have a corresponding part, this infinite capacity for perfect similarity with change. Not just the things that are changing, but with the whole body of change. That's what you are. You are the revelation of an endless change that is in itself recognized as being endlessly changing by an unchanging being. That's what you are. To use words, that's the problem. Because we get questions like that all the time. Well, now I'm trying to model myself after this new thing that you said, and I don't know what to do. Well, the very fact that you're trying to do something is that you're trying to prove to yourself something. This giant circle used to when I was a younger man, it used to drive me absolutely crazy, because underneath everything that is a problem to us is, how do it stop being a problem? How do I stop having problems? Yes or no? Well, what is the problem? You. What are you? What this mind makes of you so that it can solve a problem and then succeed at proving itself to be a winner, which it can never do. It can't. So this idea that I'm working to as I come to the end of the talk is that you cannot and must not try to imagine what it would be to participate in change, because that would require you having imagined what change is, and having imagined change, it would be from a static idea that would ensure you'll never know what change actually is. But on the other hand, you can be aware of the parts of you that fight change, that resist any moment, that resists your own thought. You're sitting there and suddenly you are in an argument with yourself or with somebody else, in quotes, in your mind. You're looking at that, you open your eyes in the morning, you're laying in bed. As a rule, what visits you when you're laying in bed? What I have to do, do I have to get up now? Because, I got a lot of stuff in a few more minutes. I mean, you run the gamut, does it not? And what is it trying to do in that moment? It's trying to figure out how to win. But it can't try to win without fearing losing. And it can't fear losing without having an idea of this nature that is determined. This is what it means to be a successful human being. And the way it says it's successful is by struggling with everything it tries to change that's a problem to it. And that's not a successful human being. What did the cannery owner yell at the fisherman who was trying to help him?
They'll never be like me.
I'm a winner. So the effort, the work, is to catch those, that arg moment, right? I mean, I'm trying to exemplify it. The sudden stress, sudden sense of feeling challenged. And to use the appearance, listen, of the energy that has been created when an active force, the will of heaven, enters into the will of this unconscious nature. And it stirs that nature, that as a rule then takes over the glass that it has been handed, and instead of drinking from it so as to accept the revelation of this hardened ambition, this hardened self, so sure of what it means to come out on top, instead of drinking from that glass as was exemplified by Christ, it simply throws out what has been presented and puts into that glass what it needs in order to satisfy the thirst it has to see itself as it's imagined itself being. So there has to be a kind of a pause. And the pause requires that a person bear for a split second a disturbance that nature, this nature, can't stand. Which is why it always answers the disturbance with wanting or not wanting it. And it makes no difference to that nature what side it chooses. So here I am. And for a split second in that awareness, I am not trying to challenge the moment. and what I meet in it. I am meeting in my mind's eye the challenger. I am seeing in myself this nature that thinks it knows what it means to win or to lose. And why is that important? Because in that moment you get to see how much pain is in that conflict, how much pain is in that consciousness. There's no substitute for this. We're always shunted off, are we not? We've been covering it. Yes, I got that. No, I don't. Oh, this is a wreck. I can fix this. We're always shunted off into one identity or another. That's always the opposite of a condition that brings it out. We don't want to be shunted off to any I at all. What we want to do is have that moment clear in front of us so that I can see I'm actually afraid of not succeeding. This is why I'm saying it's such a challenge. That's all I know. All I know is to succeed at what's challenging me so that I can be a success in the eyes of the world and, of course, in my own eyes. But can I actually suspect I don't know what success is? Because that's what's required. Because you can't stop participating in loving one and despising the other until you realize both are the effect of an unconscious nature trying to get you involved in some form of identification so that it can continue and spend your life for you. You can't until you see it. And the only way that comes up is when for a split second you're aware of this consciousness that wants and doesn't want at the same time. Because look, I want to be successful, but I don't want to have to do what it takes to be successful. How about you? Do you understand? I don't want to drudge, this drudgery, no more drudgery. But on the other hand, if I don't do the drudgery, I'm not going to be able to buy that delicious food. So the presence, the capacity to understand, well, what are the alternative in that moment? See, if you have to ask that question, you don't understand the condition. Because there is no alternative to that moment other than to participate in the change taking place when the light of that divine life shows you that which is unholy, divided. Because the minute you see that, you're changing. You actually are the fulfillment of the moment because you're changing with the moment as it's asking you to do. I'm laying myself down. Not because I want to or have some ambition, far from it. I have to suffer laying myself down, but I'm damned if I'm going to suffer sitting up again one more time and setting myself up for more pain. And then you begin to go through this beautiful, strange process by which it becomes evident to you how this mind is always comparing everything to some fixed position. And that the freedom that you're seeking isn't freedom from the world, but from the part of you that has fixed it in the image this mind has made. And then you become, instead of a prisoner of change, you become a participant in it. Probably enough for now. Oh, what am I doing now?
Hand it to Terry. Terry.
Oh, Terry. Hi, Terry.
You sit right there. Thank you, Guy. Wow. Let's all digest that. And this is our time for our Q&A. So we have three different platforms that we're streaming on. The people that are on Facebook and YouTube, you can write in questions and Kate will relay them to me and I'll relay them to Guy. If you're on GoToWebinar, you can speak directly to Guy, which I will see your hand raised here. And so let's get a good cue going here. Let me just double check here. Sometimes my hands don't appear necessarily. So I'll ask, okay, good. So, all right. And just if, in case as we're waiting for hands here, if this is your first time here, we're here every Sunday morning at 9:30. Well, actually it's 9:30 Pacific time, 12:30 Eastern time. Guy also has classic talks on Wednesday evening. Hi, Patricia. And these are replays of Guy's talks over the years, and they're just fantastic. So those are replayed on Wednesday nights at 6 p.m. Pacific time. And then we also have student talks on Friday that's open to everyone. Friday night, same time, 6 p.m. Pacific time. So in case you want to join in that, it's great. We have Insight Timer on Saturday as well at 8 a.m. All right. Any questions? Kate, let's see if we have any questions. Anybody out here, people out in the room here? You're going to, okay. That's why you're sticking your head there.
Okay, everybody's slow.
I don't hear you.
Oh, boy. How did that happen? She can't hear me, and my mic's on.
No, I can hear you now.
Oh, just hold on. Just please. I know we're new in this little space. You can't have conversations when this is going. B, if you do want to ask a question, you can ask from your chair, or as Patricia has done, you can come up here and sit next to me. But you're not going to be on camera unless I turn the whole thing. That's not what we want. All right.
Okay.
Nice and loud.
When you were talking, two things came to mind. The first, there's an old saying in this work that I always loved, and they said, and you explained it perfectly, when there's real change takes place.
You won't know it.
No. It changes your dead relatives.
Yes.
Because there's no time, and any change, is like you talked about, is everything changes. I wanted to say that, but something
It changes your past.
Yes.
Okay.
Changes your past and all the past.
And everything in that line of time.
Yes.
Okay.
Which is a beautiful, beautiful thing, I think. But I was thinking something I suffer from a lot. And you explained it again today. My mind will go into imagination about something that's going to happen in 10 minutes or something that I'm looking forward to, whatever it is, some event. And it'll picture how things should go. And then I suffer terribly when it doesn't go that way. And it ruins everything. It ruins relationships. And
a moment's pleasure for a lifetime of pain. That's what that is. A moment's pleasure. I imagine, I derive a sense of self, the identification takes place, and then that identity measures anything and everything that challenges it. So I want to say something to you about it.
Okay.
I can't look at you while I'm doing it.
Okay,
yeah.
people.
It's almost impossible, but you will, I promise, understand it as a possibility. Why does your mind go into any form of imagination that involves a pleasure or a pain to come? Why does it do that? And the answer is because it is of itself empty. And it must create for itself some condition through which it can momentarily know itself and have a sense of continuity, because in time I will complete this. When you understand the work that we're describing, you realize that the self that is seeking to complete itself is always empty. That's why it never stops imagining its own fulfillment. When you participate in life as you are created to, you are constantly complete because you are completely changing with everything at the same moment. You're not looking anymore for an identity that you know, that's familiar to you, that's promising or pleasurable, because you're not looking, this is so hard, you're no longer looking for a known pleasure. You're participating in a certain kind of divine power that is the fulfillment of itself and everything and everyone that enters into it. This is such it's huge, I get it. But this is, if you can see it, this is where real hope lies. You can't see it, but you can know that it's true.
Well, that's the way I've been working, is to just drop it anytime it comes up.
As best you can, as best you can. Then you'll learn something about how insistent that nature is, because it wants to come back and come back and come back. Yeah. They talk about that in Scripture.
7 times.
Sweep the room 7 times it comes back and filled. Okay. Yeah.
I'll ask it from here. I wasn't going to bring this up, but it came together, so.
Okay, you got to come, sweetie.
That's fine. So I wasn't going to ask about this, but it really does touch upon the talk today. And a close friend of ours, his son, his name is Tyler, was in a bad accident a week ago. Broken back, broken bones, crushed right side of his body, and
Car accident?
yeah, well, he was on a motorcycle. And we learned today that he's losing his leg, and we were hoping that wasn't going to happen. And it hit me hard because it's hard to see your son go through so much pain, especially with legs, and I have my own story with that. But even though I know there's going to be eventually a blessing on the other side of this sudden change for this family and for Tyler, it hit me, how does his family and how does he mitigate and deal with that loss when it's so sudden and tragic? And that's like the literal example of that change.
I understand. It is difficult for the longest time not to put yourself in what you imagine someone else is experiencing. We actually think, to some extent, that's what compassion is. But compassion isn't imagining what another person is experiencing. And you even spoke to this in a certain right manner, that you've been through something similar like this because of your own son. But you know, after going through what you went through, as everyone would who's had a similar situation, that you learn things about yourself that you would have not in a million years even suspected needed to be discovered, let alone worked on as a human being. I'll speak personally so that I don't.
Yeah, no, you've been through it.
There have been times in my life where others have suffered. My own father, my mother, and parts of me have seen it as an inconvenience. Now, I may want to disown that, but that's a fact. My wife is sick. I have to help her. I don't feel like helping her. Does that make me a bad person? No. It makes me a person who, if I believe in that state, suffers immensely from what is inescapable at that level of consciousness, which what wants? It wants her to be happy, but it doesn't want to do what it has to do to help her be happy. It wants them to stop suffering. In this instance, your friend. But my own experience has shown over and over again, if I will accept and watch through that moment and do as best I can what I know is the right thing to do. There has never been a moment of suffering of my own or of anyone else's life that I have been in that did not prove to be a priceless pearl, a pearl beyond price. Now, the rub is that in the moment that the pain is going down, I don't see the pearl at all. All I see is an empty shell, a dead clam on a beach, so to speak. I don't see anything pretty about it at all. But but by the grace of God, instead of a mind that measures every moment according to what it expects or doesn't, what it doesn't want, instead of that, it opens up, and you can see it's changing. You can see, and often in an incredibly dichotomous, is that the word I want? In an incredibly dichotomous way. Half of the family basically shrivels up and dies, the other flourishes. Why? Why does half of the family flourish in the face of a disaster and the other half perish? Because that half was able to use what took place so that it could participate, so that man or woman could participate, I don't know how else to say it, in a much broader plan, in a much broader set of changes. Can you see that if I don't want something, I have ceased to participate in it? Please, can you see, if I don't want something, I've stopped participating in it? Yes or no? Because resistance stops all of that. So here I don't want this pain. I don't want you to be in this pain. I've stopped participating in it. Oh, this is so much bigger than I can describe. I'm sorry that I'm so inadequate. But if I participate in the change that's producing this pain, I am a participant myself in it. I know something of this pain. I'm not separate from it. And I'm changed just as they are changed. Who's the fellow that was in that Nazi concentration camp, wrote that, The Meaning of Life? Viktor Frankl. I know you know that. Why does one man in a concentration camp come out not just changing himself, but the whole world with what he has understood about pain and suffering as horrific? And what could be more horrifying than that? And yet, I'm changed. Because he could, and this is mind-blowing, because he could see the good in it. That's what we're talking about here. The good isn't that someone's hurt. The good isn't that someone I love is suffering. The good is that in all of that, something can change in me. And as it does, it changes the relationship of everyone involved in that relationship. Then, by the way, you go and you see these people. One day you'll really get this. Then you go maybe even to a funeral. You're not participating in death. You're participating in life. You see someone has a tremendous loss. You're not participating in the loss. You're participating in what you were shown is gained when you are a member of that moment, when you're part of that body, a bigger body than your own. Does this touch any of it?
It does.
Okay.
And I'll share that.
Okay.
Thank you, Guy. Wow, that was wonderful.
I'm
All right, we're going to go next to Irene. Here you go, Irene.
My inadequacy is not the absence of the divine. What the heart can feel, the mind will never formulate. What new eyes can see, this nature will never understand unless it's able to participate in it. So that in one way, we're always a step behind our own intuition. We're always a step behind what the indwelling spirit is trying to convey. We're always behind it. I guarantee you, if you ever saw the statue of David in person, for instance, or any of these magnificent works of art, Michelangelo's Three Slaves, any magnificent piece of music, I tell you with absolute certainty that Michelangelo, that Leonardo da Vinci, that Mozart, that these men, when they created that which has stood the test of time, they stood there, they sat there, they listened, and they knew that they failed at the task. Which, by the way, would then encourage them to step in again, to be a more pure instrument of that constant change. And of course, when you try to embody change in something physical, by the fact that it's embodied in what is physical, the physicality has to miss the mark. But objectively, it passes something along to people who experience it. I had to put that in.
Thank you again for that, Guy. And Irene, I think what you did by accident is you hit your hand button instead of your mic. So just hit your mic to unmute yourself.
Is it okay now?
There you go.
Hi, Guy. First of all, I wanted to thank you very much for last week. I had a week. You helped me so much with the issue with my dog, and thank you so much. I managed to find peace in what you said.
Yes.
Before the talk, we have this day in Greece that is a name day, which actually is a christening. So you'd have Saint John, Saint Guy, Saint whatever. Anyway, I got myself in a big upset because my youngest son, I wanted to be in London basically. So my youngest said, I'm busy and whatever. And then I find out my nephew is from Boston. And so everyone's there having this wonderful, get together. And it was just, I know it sounds very sort of small, if you like, but it was just very upsetting. And I felt very sort of, I don't know if you want the word, unwanted, hurt. And there's no really an excuse, if you like, to say you can afford it, because I'm not from a family that we can't afford trips. So I suppose I feel also that there wasn't an honesty. And so what I mean is, how do you just, I don't know, stop feeling sorry for yourself, stop this hole you're in, if you like, another hole, you know?
Yeah, there's a couple parts to this ever so quickly. The first one is that we imagine we've fallen into a pit. This condition took place, and I fell into another pit. I'm in another hole. No, you've never gotten out of the hole.
Okay.
Because that consciousness digs holes, and then it falls into it itself. It follows itself into the hole, and then it blames the hole it fell in instead of seeing that it's blind. Now, how would I be able to see what it is that you're asking? And I've used this example 1,000 times. You must have heard it yourself. I reach over, I pick up a skillet. It burns my hand. I don't think to myself, how in the name of God did I pick up this skillet? Wonder what brand it is. I don't want to drop it because the eggs will be ruined. None of that goes through my mind because the pain and my awareness of it is instantaneous, and my physical well-being knows better than to cling to something that's harming me. Well, why don't I know psychologically when I have picked up something, or in this instance, when I'm walking into a pit? Why don't I know it? Because something has separated me from the action, and instead of experiencing the pain of self-pity, not the pleasure of it,
Yeah.
the pain of it, the self-love of pitying oneself. Because we say to ourselves, well, what are the options here? What else can I do besides feel bad for myself? After all, I lost something. No, you didn't lose any something. If you want to use those words, in those moments, you lost the opportunity to see that who and what you are cannot lose anything, even though in time and scale. Please don't misunderstand me. I sat with my mother and father both when they died. But it was evident to me that they're going through a change. That there is, by fact, no death without life, no life without death. An image came to my mind where you were talking. Maybe you can see this. Where I live on a bay, there's these things called striped mullets. I looked it up today because I've been watching these fish jump out of the water. I wanted to know, what is that fish that's jumping out of the water? It's a striped mullet. Why do the striped mullets jump out of the water? To get to the other side. They jump out of the water because they're usually fleeing predators, but unbeknownst, mullets have some little organ that allows them to gulp oxygen as well. So they actually jump out of the water to grab a bite of oxygen because the waters they're in may be too algae filled or whatever it is. Now, why am I saying this to you? Because the mullet jumps out of the water, it can even skip over the water like a stone, and the split second that that mullet's back in the water is back to stillness. You throw a rock in a river, the minute that rock hits the river and goes beneath the surface, there's just the river again. So the instance of something entering into what is ceaselessly changing doesn't change what is ceaselessly changing. It just actually makes evident something that is ceaselessly changing. And that's what we have to understand in situations like this. So that instead of trying to control what's making me feel sorry for myself, I need to participate in that moment by recognizing, A, there's something in me quite clearly that can't stand being in this situation. Why? Because it imagines it shouldn't be. I imagine I shouldn't have to go through this. I imagine I ought not have to suffer this. After all I've made of myself, I should be beyond this. And on it goes. And then you begin, as you're seeing, to see it doesn't change anything. When you see that all of your thought, one man taking thought can add 1 cubit to his stature, take thought for tomorrow, all of that, it suddenly makes sense. Thought interferes with change. It can't control it. And as you see that thought will pass and into another kind of participation with the moment, you will enter into where you will find what that heart of hearts is looking for. Okay, as best I can. On we go.
Thank you. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and come on and read a question before we go to a couple of hands in the queue. All right, this question came in from Ryan, and Ryan said, someone asked me how to handle the feeling of inadequacy. What should I tell her?
I'm inadequate. Bada boom. Someone asked me how to deal with the feeling of inadequacy. What should I tell her? There's so many answers to the question, Ryan, it's impossible. You could say, why do you love the feeling of being inadequate? I mean, you could say that. Then you would never have to answer another question from that person as long as you live. You could say that inadequacy doesn't exist without comparison. So if you want to know why you're constantly feeling inadequate, look at your mind that's measuring you in this moment and deciding you didn't make it. So is the problem the moment, or is the mind making a problem out of the moment? But I'll tell you the best answer of all, Ryan. Find out for yourself why it is that times come when you feel inadequate to the moment. And then see if something is building a self from it or learning something about the self. Because if you can see something in you that feels adequate and be aware of the feeling that I must prove my adequacy, then you know where that pain is coming from, and it belongs to a nature that will never prove itself adequate because it will forever be imagining some new state of adequacy that it's reached. That's all I got.
All right. Next, we're going to go to Fiona. Here you go, Fiona.
Hello, Guy.
Hi, Fiona.
There's lots of things I'd love to really bring up, but there's one thing I'll just discuss is something that I've mentioned before, and it really relates to participation that you've been talking about, and what it is that you love, because it's what you experience. So basically, with my stepdad, who does what he can to make sure that I don't spend any time with my mother, who's now quite ill, and I happen to be a specialist in lots of health issues, and so it's really difficult for me not to go up, even though I know I'm going to receive violence a lot. But the last time I was able to really watch it and really participate in it and really shake, really, by all the feelings that were brought up from all the conditioning in the past, but I wasn't resisting it. That was the absolute key. And so this time when I went up to give my mum some help, I just was able to participate and be in the moment and not even think about anything. I wasn't thinking about how I was going to cope or anything at all, just go up and do it. And so being able to just be that conduit where, it's not my mind. And I know
Fiona,
it sounds
Fiona,
like whatever I say is...
Fiona, let me stop you. Clearly, you're still disturbed. That's just so evident, which means that clearly you have not understood yet or seen what waits for you to see it in these moments. We're so used to finding an explanation for why we're in pain that it never dawns on us that what's looking for that explanation is actually the source of that pain. When you have really transcended something, to use those words, when you participate in change instead of try to change the moment, you're done with it. Oh, what a freedom. I never have to think about that again as long as I live. I never have to revisit that moment for as long as I live. I never have to imagine another moment for as long as I live. Why? Because there's no residue. There's no you that's kind of hanging off to the side, still figuring out how that went. And did I win? Did I lose? Did I succeed? Did I change enough to get through this? And that all might be part of it, Fiona. You've been down this road. I know you're a warrior. But we always have to take the next look. We always have to have that ruthless honesty. Why am I still troubled? And it's not because my father, my stepfather, is a monster, because he may be. All human beings hide a monster within them. And the monster is this level of being that's in constant conflict because it's forever trying to prove itself or escape something that disproves itself as it imagines itself. That's what your stepfather represents. You're a threat to him. How can you be a threat to your stepfather? How can anybody be a threat? Unless somehow or other you challenge something that he has convinced himself is a problem and now sees you as the pain in his side and therefore wants to keep you away for whatever reasons from your mother. You see it, Fiona. You don't let your mind talk to you about it. All interior dialogue is a distraction from the possibility of participating in this change that we're describing here. And the clearer that becomes to you, the more you'll be willing to bear what you must bear in these moments. Because I know what it's like. It's not like I don't know that. I've got to go talk to somebody. I don't want to talk to them. Why? Because I don't know how it's going to come out. I want them to like me, but I have to say something they're not going to like. I've got him to get him to see what I want him to see. He needs to understand this, but he may not. And if he's negative, he's going to make me negative, and then everything's going to go to hell in a handbasket. I don't want to go through it. But eventually you have to understand, if you want to participate in the way of change, you must make change the way. And the only way change becomes the way is when you get out of the way of everything that's trying to protect yourself in the moment of change. I hope that's clear. That's the best I got.
Yeah, that's great. Participation in the best way that I can. Embody that.
Yes,
It's not,
yes. And then Fiona... And then
yeah.
not judge yourself. And that's what thinking is. The judge is sitting back there, and then it wants to solve itself. No. Just leave it all naked, all bare. Bare the soul. Never even thought of it in that way. Bare the soul to the light of God, to the light of Christ. Bare the soul. Why? Because that light purifies. And it purifies not by adding, but by removing the dross of this nature that's forever trying to prove itself and can't.
Yeah, even articulating it, I know it is. I just want to come on and actually try and articulate something. So I really appreciate it because I do want to bear everything and feel everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know you do. And I love that you articulate it, Fiona. We're not judging. We're all seeking clarity, aren't we? Don't we? Isn't that what we want, is clarity?
Yeah. And you just mentioned the soul there. The founder of osteopathy saying that the soul is in the connective tissue, which I've studied for decades, and there's more intelligence in each cell than there is in the probably entire brain, the thinking brain, just that universe of each cell has.
All right, let me go on, Fiona. As always, I love to talk to you. You know I like talking to you. So I'll see you next week, huh?
Yeah, speak soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you, Fiona. All right, Guy, it's 10:59, it's approaching the 11 o'clock hour here. And we have one question left and one hand in the queue, just so you know.
Okay, let's do those, and then we'll go eat something.
Okay, sounds good. All right, I'm going to come on and read the question. All right, this question came in from Mick. How do you not answer someone creating lies to justify continuing hurting your livelihood?
How do you not answer someone creating lies to justify continuing hurting your livelihood? Let me see if I can't get that into a... What you're saying is, how do I respond to somebody who secretly is trying to destroy my life? Well, the first question I was asking is, why do you have to respond to them at all? Why would I want to have any interaction of any kind with someone who's filled with hatred? And by the way, it's not hatred towards you. Jealousy, hatred, enmity, all that stuff, we make that always personal. No negative state or relationship it creates is personal. It all belongs to an impersonal, dark nature forever trying to keep itself in place by finding someone else to blame or punish for the pain that it lives in incessantly. Well, I don't give personal advice, but if I had somebody like that, they would never see me. And if I went to work where they work and I know they're doing what they're doing, I wouldn't try to deal with them. I would just do the best job I can and let my work speak for me. What do I care what people say? You shouldn't either. You know why we care what people say? In this instance, maybe this person is trying to sink your profession and you fear that. So there's another whole path that we could follow, probably too deep to go into here at this point in time. But I would put it this way. What is true needs no defense, and what is false can't be defended. And like Christ before Pilate, you do not have to defend yourself to anyone or anything unless you feel somewhere or another that who you are can be impugned by what that person may be professing to be true about you. At a practical level, if you actually suspect that this is true, let your actions speak louder than words. But if there is a superior and you feel that they are being poisoned by the words and actions of this person, then don't be a coward. Go see the superior and tell them what you think is going on. So at least you have done what is in your power, which is to make that person aware of what may be going on that could be self-limiting to you. That's all. On we go.
All right, let's close it off with Carolyn here. So Carolyn, you are unmuted.
Hi, Guy.
Hi, Carolyn.
I would like you to address specialness and the I. I recognize that the I in me wants to feel really special. And the previous lesson on love your neighbor as yourself made me realize that the I, how could the I who wants to be special love my neighbor?
Correct.
And so the only thing I can come up with is not having the resistances, the negativity, all the things that are black box, so to speak. But my heart of heart really wants to have that connection, wants to experience that love. But the love that I experience is attachment, I think, and a false love, and not a love that connects to my heart.
Okay, so let me jump in, hopefully pass along a few ideas. First, if it weren't for the fact that there is a love that transcends personal attachment, one would never know not just that they are attached to certain people for the sense of reciprocation they get from that person that they call love, which in one respect is a kind of love, but it's still not agape, it's still not real love because it's conditional. So on one hand, there is that gradual realization of the limitation, not of an I in myself, of this consciousness that's forever trying to control or change whatever it has to so it can feel about itself what it wants to feel about itself. This is where I always, and I'm actually grateful for it, Carolyn. I'm grateful for running into being asked to convey once again what may be impossible to convey. As a human being awakens, they have no interest in a personal sense of self. Because they've seen that whatever they're vested in terms of a personal sense of self always contains its opposite. So I start to see. That's what you're starting to do. You're starting to see. And as hard as it is to grasp, that which can see what I have been can't be what I've been, because what I've been can't see. So now I have eyes that are able to take in and experience something that prior to that understanding I suffered from. And now I'm suffering from it still, but I'm beginning to understand a little bit about this idea of what love is and what love isn't. And one must learn the hard way that there is a certain kind of faith in things unseen, that there is a trust. Something brought me this far. It's starting to show me stuff I don't particularly want to see, but I now can at least use logic. If I can see what I couldn't, something now is awake that was asleep. And it is awakening. There's no self that awakens. There is awakening. And that awakening is the change, and it participates in the change. And it doesn't seek for anything outside of that participation, because it is fulfilled through that participation with the light and the love of God. And everything is about stripping this away. People imagine that a life with God, a life of enlightenment, is somehow or other building and enduring this or that. It's not. It's this stripping away and stripping away that you of yourself can't do, but that you can agree to see, wow, I'm clinging to something here. I always thought what I was clinging to was the way I'd save myself in this ocean of confusion. But now I recognize clinging is confusion trying to save itself. I can't do it anymore. And then you let go. And you let go, and you let go, and you let go. Not to become something, but to free yourself from the nature that fears it won't be or can't become what it's imagined. You go through it, Carolyn. Only you can go through it. And I trust you will.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, Guy, just quickly, Patricia Wiley had her hand up, and I thought it went away because I didn't see it in the queue, but she would like to come on. Can we take her just to end here?
Is she there at the foundation?
No, she's not. She's online here.
Okay, well, let me have Patricia, and then we'll close up. That's the end.
All right, let me just see. I gotta see if I can find her down here in the queue, because Kate just sent me a message here. Oh, okay. Patricia, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Okay. Yep.
Hi, Patricia.
Hi, Guy. Hi, Guy.
Hi.
It was a great talk. So I wanted to kind of give you some situations I'm in.
No,
and
listen,
ask you
Patricia,
to kind of,
Patricia, I agreed to take you, trusting that you understand that I'm tired. We've come to the end of our time, so I need you to be brief. I don't want, if it requires you setting the stage, I'm not opposed to that, but we'll do it the next time. So you decide for yourself. Can I make this concise, or do I want to talk to Guy the next time around? Because we'll put you on the queue first next time.
okay, let's do the next time.
Then we shall do
That'd be
so.
fine.
Very well. Thank you, Patricia.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone.